Hello, class. My name is Nisha,
I'm Juan.
and today we're going to be talking about movement to music technology developmental play experience for children with severe physical disabilities.
So the purpose of this article was it was analyzing a movement to music computer system in order to see if it could impact the child's ability to engage in activities and like play. And so what they were basing this off was the Youth International Classification of Functioning Disability and Health. And they identified that play was a major life area, especially under activity and participation, and was a critical component of a child's development physically, cognitively, and psychosocially. And what they were doing was they took children who had disabilities, who were typically solitary players, onlookers, because of their physical limitations, and they wanted to see if this could help to engage their social skills and perceptual skills through this system. Now, the article did not pose a research question, but we created one for it, and it was, can the use of MTM in children with disabilities expand horizons along ICF health dimension and have a positive impact on ICF environmental detriments of health? And this is just a visual representation of what that MTM system looked like. It was attached to a computer, it had a camera on top, and depending on the child's movement, the computer would interact. If they moved their hand up and touched the note on the screen, they would see themselves on the screen, and then the note that they touched would play the music or play the note that they were interacting with. So the sampling was, it was a non-probability purposive sampling, and they had 6 children with physical disabilities ages 2.6 to 7 years old. The diagnosis ranged from cerebral palsy, spinal muscular atrophy, spina bifida. The way that they recruited them was through an outpatient program at a regional children's rehabilitation center. They didn't specify which one. The inclusion criteria was that they had to have consent from the mother, at least one voluntary movement that they can control, able to make choices between preferred and non-preferred activities. They had to have no hearing difficulties, as well as be unbothered by music. And so the methodology and data collection, it was weekly sessions at a rehab center that lasted about 6 to 8 weeks. There was either a music therapist, occupational therapist, or an occupational therapist and OT student at the session. The sessions lasted about 10 to 20 minutes per session. During the first 5 minutes, the child would interact with the system and make music, just kind of a free time. And then the actual session composed of the supervising therapist encouraging the child to do certain movements and target specific notes on the screen. And towards the end of the session, they would have free time as well. The child was then asked to practice at home independently with the parents. And prior to the sessions, each child's home was equipped with the MTM system, and the parents were trained on how to set it up and use it for their home so that they could practice. At the very last session, there was an in-depth interview with the mothers that was taped and transcribed using a Navivo qualitative data analysis software. Their responses were analyzed, and then there was categories and emerging themes pulled from those interviews. So those primary themes consisted of MTM expanding horizons for children with ICF along the ICF health dimension, if MTM had a positive impact on the environmental detriments of health. And some primary sub-themes that we highlighted were improving psychosocial skills, improving body function, and maternal satisfaction. And this is just a visual representation from the article of how they categorize those themes. Now, the way that they enhanced the rigor of the study was they did do training, like we said, to set up the MTM in the home of the children. They, as well as having a supervisor therapist during each session. There was a pretty rigorous inclusion criteria, as well as a Navivo agreement coding of 75% that was referenced by the article. However, there was no rater training mentioned and no rater reliability mentioned in the article, as well as no definition of what the interview structure looked like, whether it was semi-structured or if it was just an open interview. So those were some of the things that we noticed during this study. And then just some of the strengths and weaknesses that we focused on were the strengths would be the in-depth interviews. They did to transcribe all of them. There was a good inclusion criteria as well as supervised sessions. And some primary weaknesses were the sample size that the article recognized as a weakness to the power of the research, as well as technological issues that happen in the homes of the children. With limited space at their home, they had difficulty practicing, as well as just some vagueness of the interview and role of the therapist during the sessions, and no follow-up or clear goals defined in the article.
That being said, our overall critique of the research was that the description of research protocol was vague and it did need clarity. Sessions were resided by music therapists and occupational therapists or students, and just had wanted mention, this should have been clarified for consistent inter-rater reliability, as well as a description of their individual roles for each session. The article mentioned that most of their children had their mothers in attendance. However, this should have been more clear as to how many children had their mothers. The presence of the mother could have implications on data collection and responses. As far as instrument reliability, it was easy to determine. Setup and training of the MTM system show that there was a high reliability in its usage. Future testing should have been more descriptive, reasoning for why certain protocols were implemented, as well as more detailed explanation of raters' role in the intervention. And finally, a pre-interview should have been implemented to establish a baseline. This could have been used to compare with the interviews gathered at the end of the study to demonstrate an increase in activity, mood, and engagement. As far as clinical implications and future research, music can be used as a therapeutic medium to develop or improve psychological, cognitive, or social or physical functioning to facilitate client engagement in activities. Future research can more narrowly focus on the specific diagnosis that could benefit from MTM usage, more direct controlled interventions, and finally, research can be expanded. So in relation to the biopsychosocial model, it was addressed as play being the occupation for children and how it affects them. The study points out children with physical disabilities often lack physical skills to explore their environment independently, as well as address the child's development or physical, cognitive, and psychosocial skills. The authors of the article briefly explain the dimensions of the biopsychosocial model and address each lens thoroughly. So for biological, again, children with physical disabilities lack physical skills. So occupational therapists and music therapists use music as a therapeutic medium to develop or improve physical functioning. The MTM was also designed to modify according to the child's specific physical needs. For psychological, based on the parent interview in regards to the MTM, the children felt better about themselves in terms of performance, in this case, music making. The system was considered as having potential improvement in concentration and encourage in self-esteem. And then through play, children can gain knowledge about objects in their surroundings and develop cognitive and perceptual skills. Mothers have reported that child gets to learn about music, how to read notes, and just in general enjoy listening to music. And finally, through social, children learn how to adapt to their environment. The MTM allows for an affordable home-based musical play, so the child may engage in their natural context, in this case, home or school, as well as the opportunity to play with family, friends, relatives. Even with the MTM, children were able to participate in play activities as equal playing partners with their peers, parents, and family members. And in some cases, children also took on a leadership role when it came to play and instruction. And this is more of a visual of the biopsychosocial model. Thank you.
Thank you.